The MSI Claw is a brand new Windows-based PC gaming handheld that's unique in that it's powered by an Intel Ultra Core processor. So has it done enough to sit right alongside the incredible Steam Deck, ROG Ally and Legion Go, or has it stumbled out of the gate? Well, let's unpack the top 3 key hands-on takeaways to answer that very question. So let's dive straight in and start with the absolute tech legend that is Bob, more commonly known as Wulff Den, and link is in the description. And Bob was absolutely blown away with just how cool and quiet the MSI Claw ran, which is a major factor for PC gaming handhelds.
PC handhelds tend to always run a little bit hot, and some of them have blaring fans because of that. The Asus ROG Ally is known for having an impressively quiet fan. Now, the MSI Claw might just be quieter. And it's not hot to the touch. The Steam Deck and the Ally both get warm, especially around the top. The Lenovo Legion Go can literally burn you by the top USB-C port. The MSI Claw is actually cool to the touch.
However, Bob highlighted an even more important factor and a huge issue with the Claw, which is compatibility, in that with it being an Intel-based chip as opposed to an AMD chip on the ROG Ally and Legion Go, that it's just so hit and miss whether games even work on the device.
I actually really like what I've experienced. The biggest hiccup is the compatibility. I feel like you can't reasonably predict what is going on here and what is gonna completely break this thing. I think it's up to MSI to release some sort of compatibility list for this thing. Asus doesn't really need that because everything seems to work at least okay, but MSI and Intel need to do a little bit of catching up. This is relatively new technology here.
Next, let's head on over to the mighty Phawx, again link in the description, who did an incredibly in-depth look at the Claw. And he was really impressed with the TDP in relation to its total system power of the Claw, an improvement over the Steam Deck and also the AMD chips found on the Ally and Legion Go.
One of the nice things that I can actually say about Meteor Lake is whatever you set the TDP to, it's going to be pretty close to in relation to its total system power. And this is a stark difference to where AMD has been, especially with the Steam Deck coming into the scene. When the Steam Deck LCD first came out, when you set TDP to 15 watt, it would balloon up to 27 watts total. That's 12 watts more just for total system power. And when you look at it through that lens, we're using almost the same amount that we're using for the TDP. Whereas if we set the MSI Claw to 25 watt TDP, we're using around 32 watts total. That's actually pretty impressive, but it means that when we frame these other devices in comparison, we have to notch it down a bunch by about 5 watts. So if I do AMD at 20 watt, I have to compare it to Intel's 155H at 25 watt.
An aspect that the Steam Deck, ROG Ally and Legion Go all struggled with at launch was half-baked software, and the MSI Claw is no different, with the Phawx highlighting just one drawback of the Claw's dedicated software app called the MSI Center, currently not allowing the remapping of the desktop mode buttons.
So all that stuff is pretty straightforward. On desktop, this is something that I wish was a little bit better, but I have not been able to find any way to redefine any of these keys whatsoever. So hopefully in a new software update, we can change that, because I'm not a big fan of right mouse button being B. That is probably just me, but I like using the top triggers for mousing.
And finally, let's go to probably my favourite handheld tech YouTuber, Russ at Retro Game Corps, link in the description, who commented that the screen of the Claw holds up surprisingly well against the incredible Steam Deck OLED screen, which is very high praise indeed, although there was one particular drawback.
Speaking of which, let's do a screen comparison against the Steam Deck OLED and the MSI Claw. And these are at max brightness, and you can see that the OLED is a little bit brighter and has some richer colors. But I was surprised to find that the coloring was not that far off. If we look at the blue car, there's a little bit of lost detail, but it's not too much. Now, if we try to go to the very dimmest setting, you can see the MSI Claw does get fairly dim, but it can't hold a candle to the Steam Deck OLED.
Russ, however, highlighted a key weakness of the Claw in that it requires more power to get the same performance on the AMD chips found on the ROG Ally and Legion Go, which obviously greatly diminishes battery life of the Claw.
But I got more concerned when I started to play some more 3D based games. Let's use Halo Reach as an example. This is what I consider to be an Xbox 360 era game. When you think about other flagship handhelds like an Aya Neo or an ROG Ally, with this game I usually expect to play at around 12 watt TDP with 60 frames per second and 1080p resolution. However, here when using those exact same settings, I got an average TDP of about 24-25 watts. So this is requiring more power to get the same performance compared to those other AMD systems. And so the total system power here is about 45 watts. That means we're only going to get about an hour and 20 minutes altogether before the battery dies.
The overall sense I got from these first proper hands-on impressions of the Claw is that this handheld has a long way to go and an uphill battle of sorts to sit comfortably alongside the mighty Steam Deck, ROG Ally and Legion Go. But I'd love to hear what you think all about this new MSI Claw, so do share your ideas and opinions in the comments. Be sure to like if you found this helpful, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as a thank you for watching right to the end of the video, I'd love to share this awesome quote. One thing I realized is that everything always ends up working out, sometimes even better than you can imagine. Some of the hardest and toughest times in my life brought about a change that led to the greatest times in my life. So if you're going through a really tough situation right now, just know that something better is on the way, so stay encouraged today, guys. And check this video out if you want to know 7 things I wish that I knew before getting the ROG Ally. I appreciate every single one of you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.